this is Koba Sensei from ITeens Lab. This video is the fourth installment in our video course explaining how to use Unity, a software for creating 3D and 2D games. In the last video, we tried writing some very basic code, specifically a debug log. It might not have been very exciting code yet, but this time, we're finally going to write code that moves objects. Once you can do this, I think things will start to get a lot more fun. So, let's get started right away. This time, I'd like to try writing a program that moves an object. In the previous session, we added this thing called a cube, created a C# script called test, attached it to the cube, and the code looked like this. Inside, we were trying out this debug log function. Alright, so now I want to try something new, so let's go ahead and delete this for now. The cube, okay. Just right-click and delete anything you don't need. Alright, let's delete this test script as well. Okay, delete. Now, this time we're going to move an object. Right-click in the hierarchy and select 3D object. This time, let's go with a sphere. Alright, let's use this ball. Alright, and now we're going to create a script to move this ball. So, in the project window, right where these folders are, right-click and select Create. C# script. Alright, and for the name, since we're going to move the ball, let's call it Move. But you can name it whatever you like, that's totally fine. Then, press the Enter key, just like this. And if you double-click it, it will open up in Visual Studio like this. Also, I didn't explain this in the previous video, but when you create a C# script like this and double-click it, it opens up here. You'll notice that there's already a bunch of stuff written at the top. Let me quickly go over what all of this is. At the very top, you'll see several lines that start with using. For example, using system collections and using system collections generic. And then there's using Unity engine. So, you see these three lines that start with using. What these lines are doing is importing features that Unity has already prepared for you. Basically, each using statement loads a specific set of features. So, with these three lines, you're importing a bunch of features all at once, and it's saying that you'll be using these features in your script. You'll probably get a chance to work with these later on, but for now, if you're a beginner, you really don't need to worry about them. Next, you'll see something like public class move, mono behavior written here. So, this is a public class. Basically, what this means is that you're creating a class. A class is a kind of unit or grouping of functionality in your program's code. Anyway, we're going to be writing the code for this program, basically creating the program itself. This time, we're naming this functionality move. And as for mono behavior, this is a feature provided by Unity. Thanks to this, we can write our programs much more easily, so it's really helpful. At first, you can just think of it as a kind of magic phrase you need to include. Alright, and here, this part is a comment, so it's not actually code. It just says that this section will be read first when the program starts. Okay, here we have something called void start. This is actual code. Basically, when you create a game or an animation, this gets executed once right at the very beginning, the moment it starts. Yes, that's what this program does. Alright, and over here, this part is called update. So, in this section, it says here that this gets called every single frame, so this section is read every time. Now, as for what a frame is, well, let's just gloss over the details for now. Generally, it's about 0.02 seconds per frame, I think. So, this code runs roughly every 0.02 seconds. That's how it works. Okay, so if you take a look, you'll see that the very top bracket here opens up, and then it continues all the way down to here at the end. So, the class spans from here to here. This whole block is the class, which is a collection of related functions. The class goes from this point to this point. Then, the update function goes from here to here. And the start function goes from here to here. That's how it's indicated here. So, if you want something to run only once at the moment the program starts, you put it here. If you want something to run multiple times, you put it here. Let me show you the difference just once. Okay, for example, let's use debug log. I'm going to write start like this. Let's try this out. I'll try attaching it to the sphere. Okay. Now, if you click on the sphere, you can see that this move script is attached here. Be sure that when you drag and drop this, you only drop it when the cursor changes to this arrow shape, otherwise it won't attach, so please be careful. Alright, let's try running it. If you look at the console, you'll see that start only runs once. Okay, now let's take a look at this debug log. I'll move it to the update section and write update in there. And then, here it is. I've added this debug log inside the void update function. Right here. Okay. So, let's see what happens in this case by running it. Alright, with this update, as you can see, it shows up a ton of times like this. That's what happens. With start, it only runs once at the beginning, but with update, it keeps going like this. I think it's about every 2 seconds or so. Basically, it keeps getting called continuously. Alright, now that we've got a general idea of what's written here, let's move on to the next part. At this stage, even if you don't fully understand everything, it's totally fine if you just have a rough sense of, oh, okay, that's how it works. That's enough for now. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Now, let's actually try to make this ball move a little. Alright, let's write this in the void update section. Transform. Dot. Translate. Right here. And instead of typing out each character one by one, try to use the input assistance features as much as possible. If you type up the TR, transform will show up, so press the Enter key. Then, as you keep typing, various options will appear. Type TR for translate. Yes, transl, that's right, translate. Alright. Next, type in parentheses. And inside the parentheses, write it like this, vector 3. Forward, and then semicolon. Alright, let's try saving it once at this point. Yes, use the command key, or control key, that's right. Okay. Once you've saved it, make sure to properly attach this move script to the sphere. Release it when the arrow icon changes shape like this. And if you're unsure, try clicking on the sphere. Like this. Let's make sure the script is properly attached. Alright, now let's play it. Yes, it should look something like this. The ball just kind of whoosh, like that. It feels like it's flying off somewhere. Alright. So, what exactly is happening here? Let me explain a bit more. The code we just wrote, this transform.translate vector 3.forward, what does it actually do? Well, the transform here refers to, yes, this sphere. It's the transform of the object that the script is attached to. You can see its information here in the inspector. This is the transform of the object with the script attached. This transform contains information like its position, rotation, and scale. It stores that kind of information. So, what we're going to do now is modify this transform. Yes, we're going to adjust this transform right here. And what we're going to do is called translate. This translate means moving by a specified distance. Basically, it's a command to move this position to the designated location. Yes, so this transform is. We're going to modify the transform here in the inspector. So, what exactly are we going to do? We're going to use translate, which means we're going to change the numbers in this position field. how exactly are we going to change them? That's written here. Now, about vector 3.forward, I'll explain what vector 3 is in a future video, so for now, don't worry too much about it. Let's just move on for now. Vector 3.forward. With this, this means it will move forward. This is the vector 3.forward, right? So, we're going to modify the transform. What exactly are we going to do? Well, we're going to change the position. And how are we going to change it? We're going to move it forward. Now, when I say forward here, I actually mean the z direction. It's the z-axis. So, the sphere will move along a z-axis like this. That's how you should interpret what's written here. We're going to modify the transform. Now, let's actually take a look. Okay, when you press the play button. Alright, this is the trust. You can see that the z value here is steadily increasing. So, this z value for the ball keeps increasing, which means the ball will fly off. That's basically how this program works. Alright. Now, about direction, this time, forward means in front in English. So, you can also use back instead of forward to go backward. You can use left to go to the left. White. You can also use the right one. You can also use up to go upward. And you can use down to go downward. So, for example, if you use vector 3.forward, it moves forward. If you use vector 3.back, it moves backward. If you use vector 3.left, it moves to the left. And, well, if you use right, it goes right, up goes up, and down goes down. So here, I definitely recommend remembering these 6 directions: forward, back, left, right, up, and down. I think it's good to keep these 6 directions in mind. Alright. And, if possible, it's really convenient to remember up to this point. I'd like to add a little extra information here. So, forward corresponds to the z-axis. And right or light is x. And up is y. Right here, yes, so when we say forward, it means moving in the direction of the z-axis. When we say right, it means moving in the direction of the x-axis. When we say up, it means moving in the direction of the y-axis. And if it's down, it's the opposite direction. You can specify directions like this, so it's really useful to remember these. At this point, let's make sure to memorize them thoroughly. And then, finally, here, you might notice that the speed at which the ball flies is a bit too fast. So, right here, in vector 3.forward. Yes, let's write it like this. 0.5f. This means we're multiplying by 0.5, a decimal value. In other words, it's half. By multiplying by 0.5, the speed becomes half. Yes, so doing it this way will make the speed half as fast. Yes, it's a little late. Since it was still a little hard to tell, let's try it again with 0.1. Alright, now it's become really slow. Alright, so this mark here, this asterisk, or star mark, as some people call it, is called an asterisk. In programming, it means multiplication. By multiplying by a decimal like 0.1, it makes the speed 0.1 times, or 1/10. Now, this f at the end is something you add when writing decimals. There's a rule about that. So that's why it's written this way. For beginners, you don't need to think too deeply about it. Just know that this means multiplication. So, just remember that multiplying by 0.1f means it's 0.1 times. If you keep that in mind, you should be fine. Alright, that's it for this video. Thank you very much. Alright, everyone, great job. So, how did you find today's content? Especially now that we're actually writing code, if you're not comfortable with English, you might find it a bit tough. But honestly, even professional programmers who aren't good at English can still write code just fine. So, it's really all about getting used to it. Let's keep writing code together and get more comfortable with it. By the way, in this video, I've been using words like programming, program, script, and code, but basically, all of these refer to instructions for the computer. Just think of them all as meaning the same thing. I don't really make strict distinctions between them. Anyway, don't worry too much about the little details, just keep practicing, make games, and get used to it through hands-on experience. Next time, we'll be covering variables, which are an essential and important part of programming. So, I hope you'll join me in the next video. See you then, bye-bye.